Welcome to SoulShift, where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life align to help you create a more joyful, balanced, and fulfilling life. I'm Mindy Gorman-Plutzer, and I'm here with my dear friend and amazing co-host, Allie Anderson. Today, we're talking about something that might make some of you feel uncomfortable, and that's exactly why we need to talk about it. We're diving into resilience and self-sacrifice. We're exploring why being praised as the strong one might actually be what's breaking us, why mindset work fails when our nervous system is stuck in freeze, and why resentment, that emotion we've been taught to suppress and feel guilty about, might actually be our souls waking up. Well, our guest today is not here to make you feel comfortable. She's here to tell you the truth. Dr. Julie Merriman, or Dr. Jules, as she loves being called, is a professor, counselor, author, and podcaster with 30 years of experience treating trauma. She understands that your high-functioning nature is not a gift, but rather a systemic injury. She is the rebel voice destroying the myth that self-sacrifice is virtuous. Dr. Jules blends clinical neuroscience with unpolished Texas grit to help women over 50 stop running on cortisol and start living for themselves. She believes resilience is often just a high tolerance for pain, and most of us have tolerated enough. She lives on a ranch with her pet bull, Larry, and her biggest wow factor, being a boomie, her grandma name. And her message is clear. It's time to be greedy for your own joy, stop saving everyone else, and save yourself.
Welcome to SoulShift, where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life come alive.
SoulShift is your weekly dose of inspiration and a reminder that meaningful change can be both gentle and powerful.
Together, we'll unlock practical tools, share conversations that spark something beautiful, and celebrate every facet of your incredible human experience.
Your energy matters, your growth matters, and you matter. Let's shift boldly,
Joyfully.
Together.
Dr. Jules, welcome to SoulShift. We are so ready for this conversation, I think.
Well, thank y'all. It is wonderful to be with you. I'm excited to see what we can make uncomfortable. Wow.
Okay, that's great. All right, so let's start with something that's going to shake a lot of people. I think I'm going to be one of them. We constantly praise women for being resilient, especially those of us in the healing and helping space. We wear it like a badge of honor. But you've said that resilience is often just a fancy word for high-functioning tolerance of pain or even abuse. Can you explain why being the strong one is actually what could be breaking down our biology and what that shift from resilience to refusal looks like?
Sure. Well, that's a big one, that shift. But we, especially those of us that have overeducated ourselves and we're in a pretty high spot we are at in our career, we've been doing this for a while. The young ones look to us for help. The bosses give us the hard cases, if you will. And that's all because we've always shown up, even when we didn't want to, right? We were exhausted. We didn't feel good, but we had a responsibility and we had to be there. So we taught our nervous systems to shut up and go away so we could show up. We could show up when we were exhausted. We could show up when, do you know how you wake up in the morning in that dread, like, oh my God, I cannot believe I have scheduled myself like this today. But what do? We show up. God, no, I can't cancel that client. That would be so irresponsible of me. So instead of listening to our bodies, because that dread is your nervous system going, girlfriend, I'm talking to you. I need a little break here. I'm running on fumes. We have just taught ourselves. And, a lot of it, as you mentioned, the praise. We get praises. We get promotions. We get more responsibility, often without pay. We work in systems that set us up to work too hard. We're rewarded for that. And this is a little different. I talked with a 30-something gal the other day, and I think our 30-somethings and 20-somethings are onto some wisdom. I was born in the early 60s. Those of us in our 60s perhaps weren't afforded that wisdom, that they're refusing to take on those things that I took on as a badge of honor. My daddy always told me I was a dime a dozen, so I best get my ass out there and make myself worthwhile. And this new generation is not getting that message. I think we can learn something from them, truth be told. What I've noticed with my clients that I work with, there's a kind of a quiet quitting going on. We're not in love, or the ladies I work with are not so much in love with their jobs anymore. They show up, but they're not passionate like they were because it's just been beat out of them from working so hard.
Yeah, it's interesting. The word resilient, I find myself recently using that word a lot. I'll give you an example. I too am a boomie, but I'm a Mima, okay? And my grandchildren, 2 of them are applying to college. And the situation today with the college acceptances is so unpredictable. And what I see is that these young adults are being forced to create identities for themselves, to literally market themselves. And Allie, you could probably speak to this as well. You've got college-age children. To market themselves to be accepted to the university of choice. And then they are rejected for no reason other than maybe there were too many students accepted from their geographical area the year before. And I've been saying that it pains me because these kids need to become resilient. And I've been using that word in this context because here they are, their identities are being questioned. And what does that do to them? So I would love for you to speak to that if you could.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, having your strong sense of self, your worth is coming from the inside, not being hung on the outside as to where I get accepted or I don't get accepted. I think failure is a good thing. And I've worked in a college for 30 years. I've been on the other side of this game they play with numbers that doesn't make a dadgum bit of sense. You're right. In fact, I celebrate because I teach graduate students now, but when a graduate student fails at something, I celebrate that for her because she's able to learn so much, right? So many lessons come from not getting what we want. So many lessons come from learning. You're using the word resilient, and I absolutely see where that would fit, but also learning that we can survive even if we don't get exactly what we thought we wanted. And sometimes that's the biggest gift someone can give us is a no and failing. But that resilient piece, picking yourself up by the bootstraps, as we say out here in Texas. I don't know if that makes sense across, but just picking yourself up and moving on. There's value in that. There is value in that. And I think these kiddos being rejected from a college, sometimes, I can think back where I didn't get accepted to some of my doc programs, and that was the biggest gift I ever got looking back. It put me on a path that I really needed. So I think being able to help our younger generation understand that it may not be the path you exactly wanted, but yes, let's be resilient and find, make the best out of the path you're on.
I understand that. So perhaps resilience isn't the right word because I'm just relating to it from the fact that these young people are creating an identity for themselves. And then that identity is not accepted. It's not so much the college acceptance, is that how hard they've worked to succeed at this stage in their lives. That's all they know is slapped down.
Yeah. Especially the States. I think there's a lot of wisdom in other countries that let people go backpack for a year. I guess anyone could do that, right? But, go find yourself before you actually start applying to colleges. Because I worked that freshman year. At one point in my career, I was assigned to the freshmen, and we lose a lot of them because they don't know how to study. They're free. They're doing all kinds of things, and they're busy finding out who they are, as you're talking about, Mindy, that who am I? And so they leave home and they're into their college life. And I can't tell you how many freshmen, because at one point I was a dean that did these suspension hearings, which they ended up getting a lot of therapy because I'm a counselor, but of the freshmen that partied too much, right? Or didn't make it to class or really didn't know who they were and weren't able to really make that freshman year work. And it does take some resilience, right? To pick yourself up after you flunked out. My oldest son, who's 43 now, he was at the Kansas State University and he got invited to leave, which is not everyone gets that invitation, but talking about resilience, this young man is amazing. He put himself, and as an academic, that was a whole thing with my own therapist, my son walked out. But we told him, and my husband, I have an amazing husband who told me to sit my arse down, let this boy experience what he needed to experience. And Cliff went and got himself into a junior college, got his grades back up, got readmitted to Kansas State. And I, as a mother, that was very hard not to interfere, but he needed to skin his knee and needed to figure out how to get himself where he wanted to be. And he is a highly successful rancher and farmer of the Montana right now. And he tells me to this day, Mama, that was the best lesson in life I ever had, that failure, but learning that he could succeed based on his efforts. When I say failing is so important, the other piece of that is that they can learn to count on themselves, right? And believe in themselves. And through that, their identity continues to develop.
Okay, so I want to transition then to our listeners who are mostly women 50 and older. So the lesson in this then would be what? What would you tell women in our stage of life who are dealing with this, considering what their definition and attachment to resilience has been?
Right. My little brain is going so many ways, but I'm like, as a parent, let your kid go. But as a woman, and y'all, we are coming to the most fabulous time of life, right? I mean, we're so free. We've learned so much. We're the most wise we've ever been. But along the way, we get very attached to our titles. We get very attached to our accomplishments. We kind of lose. In fact, I have a course that I have on just excavating the woman, if you will. We get so covered up by our duties, by our accomplishments, by our degrees on the walls, whatever it might be, that we lose sight of that core woman that we are without all those accomplishments. Just us. What do you enjoy? What brings your soul joy? You know what? I was out, it was like 70 degrees in Texas yesterday, and I went out back, and I've got 3 heifers who just had their babies, so the cows now. But anyway, they were just right across the fence, and I'm watching them loving on their babies, and I'm soaking up the sun, and I have some little yoga goats. Y'all really should come visit. But where I'm going with this, I let go of anything that was academic or professional. I just went back to Julie and just enjoyed soaking up the sun and not accomplishing shit, not accomplishing anything, but getting some vitamin D, which helps regulate your emotions, And I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, there's a good lesson in this for all of us, I suppose, considering when there's been a cultural message about how virtuous it is to be resilient. So it's a big topic. This is great.
It is, and I think it really hits those of us raised at a time. I know we're similar in age. We broke through some glass ceilings. Do you remember the commercial where the woman's dancing, I can do this because I'm a woman. Remember that? I can bring home the bacon. And we were taught when we were raising babies, you could do everything. You're a superwoman. You work those jobs. You be PTA mom. You be there for those kids. And it'd like to kill us. I mean, but we were also told by our bosses, you don't show up, you may not have a job tomorrow. We had so much pressure put on us that our nervous system is still, and this is something I work a lot of my ladies on, our nervous system becomes so overstimulated and just polluted from we're taking on other people's trauma, we're worried about our own stuff, that we are so overstimulated that we've got to be able to regulate our nervous systems and release years of trauma. I'm not talking big T trauma, although there might be some, but little T traumas that have happened when a boss threatened you or whatever might have happened, that we felt like we had to overperform, to even perform, to keep up with. And I want to bring sexes into it, but there was a time, if you were a woman, I've said it though, I've been the only woman at a table a lot. I can remember one time these men said, well, we're going to play paper, rock, scissors to make a decision. I didn't know those rules, and I couldn't have an emotion in there. But afterwards, I'm pissed. I went and locked myself in my office and cried to my mother. It's like, I don't know how to play paper, rock, scissors. And I had studied for the whole week. I had this big plan. Anyway, that was a trauma. I think that us gals just really need to make a lot of time and space to regulate our nervous systems and accept that we are enough without doing a dadgum thing. Just being.
Julie and Mindy, I love that we're talking into this. And, I'm in my early 50s and have certainly lived that good girl archetype. Like, that's what I was supposed to do. And many of the things that you already mentioned, so many of my clients are in that same position. We're all just taking on the world. And we're taking care of our families and our parents and our children and our communities. And it's a lot. And so many of us, I think, when we're living like this, because this is all we know, we don't even know that there's a world beyond that, right? And what I'd love to ask you about is, can you explain a little bit, what does the woman's nervous system really look like when she's stuck in this survival mode? How does she even know she's in this? And then maybe a little bit about how can she just begin to recognize she's in it and begin to take steps of like letting go of this perfection that the world has asked us to take on?
I love that question. That's such a good question. It's all about our polyvagal system, right? And she might be in a fight, fighting for her survival. She might be in a flight where she's just running, or she might be in freeze where she's fawning and she's just numb. I remember I had a friend ask me, aren't you excited to go see Courtney, my grandkids? And that was when I really realized how impacted I was, because I didn't have a feeling. I was just that floating head of competence that I speak of. Everything's up here. My body was gone. So I do a lot of chakra psychology and I do a lot of somatic psychology with my clients, a lot of body scans, because first we want to get embodied, right? We want to get back to our body. What the hell is going on with my body? And once we can get her there, we can start that nervous system regulation, trying to figure out, where are we? Are we in the fight, flight, or freeze? And it might be in different times, well, when I'm at the office, it's a lot of this, but when I get home, it's this. And that's why I love being a therapist. It's like I'm on this treasure hunt, right? I'm trying to figure out, where is the feeling and what can we do about it? And so I do a lot of body scans to start helping a woman get back into her body. And I know y'all are practitioners. This is probably not surprising to hear. So many of my gals, and I say this with love and respect, but they're just clueless when we do our first few body scans as to what they're feeling where. So it takes some time, that new neural pathway they're building, right? To even try to get attuned to their body, because that's where we live. So that's the very first thing, getting attuned to your body. And we do a lot of chakra education and work. Every session we start with a body scan, because I'm cluing in to what chakra is doing what. And I'm an academic. I believe in chakras. It's not all woo-woo. It's some ancient wisdom for us to start. And from there, of course, your breathing work. We've got to get her into breath work. Dr. Weir in Fort Worth, Texas, diagnosed me as neurotic when I was 3 years old in 1966. Who does that to a child? To where I'm going with that. Even at 3 or 4 years old, I can remember deep breathing. I didn't know how it helped my polyvagal system at all, but it does. So I really try to teach her, when you inhale longer than you exhale, it helps reset your vagus nerve, and some little tricks that she can do through the day. I also like to teach her the glass wall where you're sitting. I mean, not to separate yourself from someone, but when you're I deal with a lot of therapists who are dealing with a lot of trauma that they're dealing from their clients. But if you sit behind a glass wall, and that way you're with that client, but their emotions kind of hit that wall, it protects you. It's a great visualization that she can do before or after a session to try and debrief or decompress a bit. But the main thing, get embodied. Get out of your head and get embodied.
Absolutely. I've heard you say being nice is destroying your health. As you mentioned at the beginning of this call here, that I'm supposed to do it. I'm supposed to be here, so I will be here. And it may not be what my health needs right now. I really appreciate you bringing that awareness to all of us in midlife. It's important.
It is. And one thing, and not to be morbid, but I'm very aware that, I'm out of my childbearing years. I'm towards that end of my chapter. And I want to live big and fully, be fully me. I want my grandkids at my funeral to go, Boomby was fully her. We know who she is. And she taught us some things about taking care of ourselves. And, my message is not, we don't help others, because we do. That's part of who we are. We want to help others, but we don't do it at the expense of ourselves. And so often that's what we've done. Well, I don't want to say yes, but, obligation or guilt, we go ahead and do it. And then we resent it, right? Because we're not getting our needs met. And when we don't get our needs met, we get resentful and we have to look in the mirror because that lovely gal is the one responsible for getting our needs met. And sometimes we have to say hard things, not socially inappropriate or mean. That's not what I mean, but have that hard conversation that this just isn't really something I can do. And I have some techniques around that. For someone whose nervous system is really not regulated, saying no can be almost terrifying. Depending on whatever, it's kind of like your money story, whatever kind of message you're bringing from childhood, because it is a lot of inner child work. We do a lot of inner child work, but whatever message is around that no can be kind of scary if you really haven't examined what your no means. I know, of course, I was raised by some good Southern parents. If I wanted something, the rule I learned is you come second. You better be polite and don't you dare, not serve your friend first or whatever it might be. But the message I got was I came second. So I really had a hard time with the word no and setting boundaries. I really had to learn that. But there's a lot of value because no is a complete sentence and it's not personal.
Yeah, very true. You mentioned, before about being numb and about how there are so many women who are basically not connected to their bodies, right? And we need to introduce the concept of somatic work to them. What I see in so many of my clients is that being numb has allowed them to push through what could otherwise be intolerable. Being numb has become a survival tool and a survival tactic. But can you talk about why the body shuts down even joy?
Oh, sure. Really, the way that polyvagal system is set up is really quite beautiful. It's set up to protect us. And so much energy is going towards this dread or going towards pushing through your brain. It's going to take a shortcut. It's like you're spending all this energy. We're shutting this other down because to feel joyful is not survivable. And I got to make sure that your heart is beating and you're breathing and all these other things are going. So it's going to shut down those joyful things because it's not necessary. That's part of that, what you're talking about, the pushing through. That's part of being in so often a toxic system that, my husband's been battling brain cancers, which he's fine. He's going to be fine. But I'm just saying, I've been at the hospital. I've lived at a hospital quite a bit, and I've watched those nurses. They're exhausted. They are pushing through stuff. They got patients screaming at them. And, it's little wonder that they can't feel anything and they're just in survival mode. I used to run a psychiatric unit, and I can remember getting in the car. I live 5 minutes away and I think, how do I get home? I'm so exhausted. But our body is going to shut down what it doesn't have to have to conserve energy. And all those yummy things that we love will be the first to go. A good sex life, those are going to be the first to go.
Yeah. This is crucial from a neuroscience perspective, isn't it? Somatic work is so important over just talking. Talking keeps us in our heads and it doesn't allow us to connect to the parts of ourselves that we really need to listen to. And we hear so much today about mindset work, right? Affirmations, gratitude journals, positive thinking. But you argue that for many women, especially those of us over 50, mindset work is useless until we address the nervous system. All right. So why does mindset fail when a woman is stuck in a freeze response?
she's just not ready. Her nervous system is still in that survival mode. It's not turned on. And I'm not saying I'm the first one. There's all kinds of research to back up how important journaling is and mindset work is and gratitude. But she has to heal her nervous system before that will work for her. So what ends up happening a lot of times, she feels very gaslit and even resentful for someone to go, I'll just take a day off. And she takes a day off and doesn't have a darn bit. She's not rested because she's in that constant fight or flight or wherever she is, fight, fly, or fawn mode. So her little nervous system just cannot release, and she needs that release.
So basically, the neuroscience of safety has to happen before mindset work can even be effective.
That is a beautiful way to state that. Absolutely. If she doesn't feel safe, she's not going to be able to release. And safety, it's not, there's a burglar outside necessarily. It's lots of things. Am I safe enough that I can show up as me at work? Am I safe enough that my husband's going to accept whatever it might be? The safety.
And it's about embodying the self, right? And the sense of safety, really feeling it and living it and being present. You can't talk your nervous system, in other words, is what you're saying. You can't talk your nervous system into feeling safe. You've got to feel it.
You absolutely cannot. She's very wise, so she's trying to think her way out of it too. And you can't think your way out of it. You're going to have to sit and really do the work. And I love that these somatic practices are becoming more popular. I know the students I train, they know about it before they leave grad school. I think it's a game changer. Yeah, you can't talk your way out of it.
And you have a very interesting take on pouring from an empty cup.
I do, because I've done it, man. I've done it for years. That saying that you can't pour from an empty cup is a flippin' lie, because we do it all the time. I'm exhausted. Okay, I'll do that. And then you become the empty cup. That's the piece that I don't want us to do. It can be different. It can be so different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I visualized, remember that song, I'm a little teapot? I visualize that song every time I think about the empty cup. But little teapot will tell you not to do it.
And Julie, what strikes me here is you're naming what so many women are experiencing, but we really may not have the language for. So I really just appreciate you really speaking into each one of these so that we're all aware that it's okay. It's okay to step outside of this little world that we've been sort of conditioned into, right? I want to ask you, if you were to speak into the key truths that you want our listeners to walk away with, what would you introduce and what would you say?
One thing that comes to mind that I think is important here, and I can't think of the author's name, but it's a new neuroscience research that has come out. It's a female author, female researcher. Oh, the name of the book is 67 Days to Rewire Your Brain. And the research used to show, maybe 21 days, 30 days, but she actually did a study in 67 days, and she has imaging. New neural pathways begin to build, and those old pathways go away. So I think that's very important to remember when you're changing a habit, which this is habit stuff. I mean, I'm going to start working on my nervous system, whatever. Give yourself time to allow those new neural pathways to form, because they're coming. Be nice to you. Be nice to you. Self-compassion. Kirsten Neff does a beautiful job with self-compassion. She's a researcher out of University of Texas. Look that book up. I have all my students read that book. Self-compassion, basically, y'all, is being as nice to yourself as you would to a stranger on the street. That's not being selfish, as my daddy would have said. It's taking care of you. And try something new. I mean, it's terrifying. It's terrifying for some of these women to think, can I even do that different? Or maybe they're so exhausted, I don't have energy to try something different. But it's one step at a time, right? You eat that elephant one bite at a time, as my boom bee said. But I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. It's not going to change overnight, but you got to keep showing up for yourself. You deserve it. You're enough. You're enough.
Yeah, it's very true. The first step of my 7 steps to food freedom framework is find your enough. And even though it's the foundation, it's truly the ultimate result that we want.
Absolutely. And one thing, and I'm sure y'all work with your clients on this too, we can say it, but you got to believe it. And continued work. And I think this is the longest journey from your head to your heart. I mean, that's part of that embodiment stuff, but say it enough so that you can believe it. And I have my clients, you say that, how much do you believe that? We'll scale that, 0. Okay, we're going to have to come back to this. But yeah, you're enough.
And that being resentful is not ungrateful. It's acknowledging what you need and perhaps giving you the impetus to ask for it.
Exactly. And we can even boil that down to, it's just communication, right? If we don't ask for what we want, we're not going to get what we want. And we're going to get resentful. Well, Bob should have known I needed that, or however that might go. But we have a responsibility to ourselves to ask. Now, somehow, and I don't know, I can't tell you the neuroscience behind this, but I know it's there. Even asking, even if you don't get what you want, just going through asking is very important. I think your amygdala is keying in and keeping, because we don't want him fired up. And he's like, okay, she's trying. She tried to get what she wants. But when we feel resentment coming up, it's nothing to be guilty or shameful about. It's simply a clue, something to get curious about. But at the other side of that resentment is some pretty good information that person needs.
Yeah. And one would hope that the lesson there is not one of being a victim, but we can be accountable for why we're feeling the way we are. What's our role in that?
Absolutely. Because that's the constant that will not go away. The one relationship we're going to have in life is with ourselves. That's a constant. So if we are making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. And I think what's also important to bring back into the conversation is the reminder that mindset work will not override a nervous system that's stuck in freeze, right? We have to start with the body. We have to initiate strategies to realize we're safe or to begin to feel safe, and somatic therapies and strategies will do that. And then the mindset work can actually land.
That's right. Because your brain, who's been trying to conserve energy, has now got some extra energy to go, oh, let's do this. Yes, that's great. Yeah.
So you have a book and a podcast, and I know that you are giving our listeners a link to a free quiz. What is your burnout archetype, right? So tell us about your offerings and where people will be able to find the quiz in our show notes. Can they find it on your website as well?
Yes. I actually have 2 podcasts now. My book is In Pursuit of Soul Joy, which is my journey from burnout and back. And that's on my website or Amazon. I have a podcast, Compassion Fatigue Cure, From Burnout to Radiance, for women healers over 50. And then I'm writing a book that'll come out in March. Are we going to have sex or what? For women over 50, keeping it's about nervous system healing. Because if our brain doesn't feel safe, we're not going to get to enjoy sex. But it's about us gals over 50 in the bedroom. My second podcast is Sexy After 50, Improve Sex and Intimacy by Healing Your Nervous System. And that's on my site too.
Love it, love it, love it. So to everybody listening, please take Dr. Jewel's free quiz to discover your burnout archetype. As I said, the link will be in the show notes, as well as links to her book and her podcasts. And again, if this conversation stirred something in you, especially if it made you uncomfortable, pay attention to that. Because your discomfort just might be your soul waking up. And if you've been the strong one, the resilient one, the good girl, you've done enough. You've earned enough. You've tolerated enough. It's time to put yourself first, not someday, but now. And as we always say here on SoulShift, small shifts create big transformations. And sometimes the biggest shift is simply saying, I matter, my joy matters, and I'm done being the empty cup. I love that. I love that. I love that, Dr. Julie. Thank you so much for being with us. Truthfully, it was just a very rich conversation. And again, to our listeners, if something resonated with you or rattled you, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. The message needs to be spread. And if you're new here, welcome to SoulShift. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Join us every week as we explore transformation, healing, and the intersection of science and soul. So until next time, keep shifting your mind, but make sure you're igniting your soul at the same time. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
And offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If SoulShift feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled.
And may your path be filled with grace.